Bobby.
Hey, Sean.
I gotta tell you a dad joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. We're already rolling our eyes. Why was the belt sent to jail?
Why?
For holding up a pair of pants?
You should stick to the Moneywise FAQs.
Yeah, it's not as pretty as your flowers.
Very true. Sean, what are some of the things that an employer takes in consideration when choosing structures between salary and hourly employees?
Bobby, this is a great question, and it's one that's actually can be really complicated because there's some things that are misunderstood there. And I'll start by trying to clean that up. I don't want to confuse the salary versus hourly with an exempt employee versus a non-exempt employee, right? An exempt employee is an employee who's exempt from overtime. There's some specific Department of Labor, mostly at the federal level, but also at the state level, exemptions for specific kinds of employees that say these kinds of employees who do these kinds of things are exempt from overtime. And then there's a whole group of folks that are not exempt from overtime. And so when we think about salary versus hourly, one of the things we do have to think about is, are we looking at an exempt employee or a non-exempt employee? If they're not exempt from overtime, you may want to consider paying them an hourly rate because that just makes it really easy. They've got to clock in and clock out anyway, but you want to keep track of that hourly rate and all of the hours. And obviously in every state, the overtime rules are different, and when you reach overtime are different.
Is it when the duties change during their employment with you that may change the structure of how you pay them?
There are lots of reasons why you might take a non-exempt employee, someone who is due overtime, and pay them a salary. One of the reasons why you might want to pay them a salary for their traditional 40 hours is to attract that specific talent, right? Somebody might want the sense of guarantee that comes with regular pay for a regular salary. Obviously, you would change from exempt to non-exempt or non-exempt to exempt based specifically on duties and roles, and also rate of pay. There's a whole new rule for the administrative exemption on overtime. There's always been a minimum amount of pay, but that level of pay rose on July 1st and will rise again on January 1st. So certainly salary level is a consideration, duties are a consideration, and whether or not you owe them overtime is a consideration, in addition to whether or not it may or may not help you attract the kind of talent that you want.
What can happen to an employer if they're not in the right guidelines, if they take the wrong considerations and do it wrong?
If you don't appropriately pay an employee their overtime, if they are a non-exempt employee and do overtime, that employee can make a complaint to the Department of Labor, and that would allow there to be a Department of Labor investigation into your pay practices. There are all sorts of other considerations that are kind of separate from this hourly versus salary. There's some of the considerations concerning tipped employees and what their minimum wage may or may not be. There's considerations with whether or not an employee who has on-call hours, whether or not they have to pay for all of those, or whether or not they're allowed to pay some level of waiting stipend. There's some wait to work hours, like if you have to be on site at a certain time but don't actually start work until a later time, how is that time covered? And in certain instances, if your job requires some level of travel time, there are some travel time considerations. And don't even get me started on the healthcare, and particularly home healthcare and home-based employees. There's a whole host of other considerations there. So this really becomes a very tricky issue when we talk about pay. And should I do salary versus an hourly rate? It depends on so many different factors and what you need to accomplish and what's going to be easy.
I know clients call and ask us, and it's not a clear yes or no question, and we help them through it. Where would you direct people who aren't clients? Where would you direct them to get an easy answer?
Easy answers are hard to come by, but the U.S. Department of Labor website, which I believe is dol.gov, the Society for HR Managers, their website is really good on answering some of these questions. And there are a number of other HR-related websites that are good at answering these questions. And then keep in mind, each state's Department of Labor may have different rules. So for example, California has a whole different set of overtime rules and double time rules than say Virginia does. Some states follow the federal mandate, some states don't. So the answer isn't an easy answer. The web can help to start. U.S. Department of Labor is where I would start. State Department of Labor second. And Beyond that, you might want to consult a professional, whether it's a payroll professional or an HR professional. Most are open to answering some basic questions, even if they won't give binding advice. If you have questions about this or any other payroll-related issues, subscribe to our newsletter from our website or follow any of our socials on Instagram, LinkedIn, or our YouTube channel.
Feel free to give the office a call or stop in. We're right in downtown Charlottesville. Any one of us can answer any questions you have.
My name's Sean.
This is Bobby.
And this has been a Moneywise FAQ.